I commend this bill to the House.
I call Dennis O'Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Electronic Identity Verification Bill is intended to regulate the operation of the Electronic Identity Verification Service, to give individuals using the internet the option of using a secure channel to verify their identities and to access services from approved government and non-government agencies. The provisions of the bill expand the iGov service to all members of the public and will allow more agencies to use the service to identify their clients. I think the current service is a great success, and therefore the expansion of it is certainly a good thing. Mr. Speaker, New Zealand First is pleased to see the anti-hacking provisions in the bill, and we are pleased to see the penalties for the misuse of information as well. And it is very important, as the bill does, to distinguish between corporations and individuals. Organisations that hack information would be doing so for commercial gain, and they cannot be imprisoned, so we are pleased to see that there are very high financial penalties for their infringements of the bill, of the Act as it will be. We would have liked to have seen other penalties considered as well, such as the deregistration of a company in New Zealand for the most serious of cases. However, it's very good at least to see very high penalties for corporations who infringe. In respect of the regulation of information, New Zealand First agrees with the proposed new Clause 65A concerning regulations to prescribe the length of time that electronic identity credentials, photographs, records of usage history, status information and technical codes are retained after their cancellation, revocation or expiry. We approve also in particular of the requirement for the regulations for these purposes to be subject first to consultation with the Privacy Commissioner. I think that's a very important safeguard. New Zealand First also approves of the new Clause 65A in allowing a different duration to be set in regulations for electronic identity credentials issued to children under 14 years of age. Simply, of course, because, as we know, children's appearances change dramatically as they age, and generally they hold fewer identity documents, which can limit the effectiveness of biometric checks. New Zealand First further supports new subclauses 5B and 5C of Clause 26 in relation to the situation where an individual's application to amend their information has been refused by the applicable Chief Executive. By requiring that Chief Executive to take reasonable steps to indicate that the information recorded in a credential is disputed. That is the very least we think that should be done in those sorts of circumstances, because the bureaucracy doesn't always get things right, and individuals need to at least have the opportunity to say that. So New Zealand First supports the bill, and especially the roles identified for the Privacy Commissioner. New Zealand First also supports the Identity Information Confirmation Bill to attack especially online fraud. The bill will achieve an important objective to facilitate the use of an electronic service that allows agencies to confirm identity information provided to them by individuals with information held by the Department of Internal Affairs under the Birth, Deaths, Marriages and Relationships Registration Act 1995, the Citizenship Act 1977 and the Passport Act 1992. In relation to the definition of identity information, that includes information about a person's full name, gender, date of birth, place of birth, other recorded information. For example, in a passport or a photograph on a passport, and the status of any other recorded information. In Clause 8, there is a list of conditions for using the confirmation service, which most particularly, of course, requires the individual to consent, whether in writing or individually. It requires the agency or intermediary applying to give an assurance that the consent has been obtained and, of course, that they have entered into the required confirmation agreement. There is also the ability for an individual to consent on a one-off basis or an ongoing basis, and the ability to withdraw that consent as well. And we think those also are very important safeguards. I also approve of clause 9.4, which states, and I quote, the confirmation service must not at any stage supply to the agency or intermediary any recorded information about the individual who is the subject of the search, unquote. It is, of course, just confirmation service information that we are concerned with here. Clause 10 gives a long list of requirements in respect of the responsible officials, requiring a need to be demonstrated by an intermediary before they can enter into an agreement, and also they must have policies and practices in respect of security of information and relating to the privacy of individuals. Clause 11 and clauses 11A and 11B contain, I think, very comprehensive provisions concerning what must be in a confirmation agreement and, in addition, how those agreements are to be used. So for all of those reasons, New Zealand First approves of the bill. We think that there are satisfactory safeguards in it with regard to individual privacy, and we think especially that the provisions relating to the role of the Privacy Commissioner, who will also ensure that the safeguards for the privacy of individuals are respected, are very important as well. So for all those reasons, Mr Speaker, New Zealand First will vote in favour of both bills.
I call Jamie Lee Ross.
Mr Speaker, I'm pleased that the House has returned to a level of calmness after the